The person who clearly sympathises with a sworn enemy who has killed our citizens. If she's done something wrong, she can be punished for it. She can't be let in. I'm going to stop it. It's completely illegal. Illegal. Lawcracker. Welcome to Lawcracker. We take what's going on in the law and break it down. Okay, so today we're going to talk about Shamima Begum. She's one of the ISIS girls who went out, aged around 15, without their parents knowing, via Turkey, out to Syria to have an arranged marriage with a Dutch convert to Islam who was an ISIS fighter. She thinks the other two have died. She has survived. She's seen some horrible things. She talks about in an interview not having been fazed when she saw a severed head in a bin or something. She's clearly still radicalized. She's currently in a refugee camp. She says she's pregnant, 9 months pregnant. She says she's had 2 children already, both of whom have died. I don't think we've got any evidence about whether that's true or not. We've got her word. All right. Okay, she wants to come back, and I think she says, I want to come back to the UK to live quietly. At the same time, she seems very much still sympathetic with the cause of ISIS, but she says they didn't deserve to win. Not that what they were doing was wrong, but they didn't deserve to win because of corruption, etc. Clearly not someone who's gone through any great rehabilitation. We have certain feelings when we see something like that, don't we? And immediately we think this is a person who has turned her back on our country. She's turned our back on her values and joined our enemies. We can't necessarily prove what she's been doing out there, but this is a person who clearly sympathises with a sworn enemy who has killed our citizens. I'm from Salford. A guy called Alan Henning, an aid worker, amazing guy, was brutally murdered by these people, in a public way. This is incredibly emotive stuff, and she appears to support our enemies over there. I'm no massive nationalist or patriot or anything like that, but we're talking about the enemies of this country, all right? Do we have any evidence that what she says about having had 2 children is true? Probably not. Certainly she wants to come home. She's a pretty unattractive character to us, isn't she? And let's be frank about it too. Does she not also represent a risk? Do we know that she's no longer involved with these people? That must be our first instinct. Is she a security risk? On the other hand, let's look at the other part of the moral argument. She was 15 when she went out there with 2 other friends. They clearly seem to have gone out together, having been radicalised by social media or whatever. The law views that in a certain way. We'll talk about that in a minute, but at 15 years old, are we to judge her for the position that she took in quite the same way as we would an adult? Clearly not. And, she's a British citizen. And this is where the kind of legal part of it comes in. Because on the one hand, some pretty negative moral instincts towards her, don't we? And on the other hand, there might be some sympathy. So there's some complexity there from the outset, right? In times like that, where you have that moral grey areas, what do? Well, in a civilised society, we retreat to the law and see what the law tells us about what we can do. And then we look at the practicalities of it. Well, the law in this situation is what? Well, she was a minor at the time. She's a British citizen. She doesn't appear to be a citizen of anywhere else. She cannot be stripped of her citizenship. If she's done something wrong, she can be punished for it. That's the way our law works, okay? Our problem, of course, is that there is this evidential issue. Really, we don't know what she was up to out there, and there's not going to be much evidence of it, probably. So she has certain rights that can't be taken away from her. That's kind of challenging, because we think, well, what if she is that risk? The first step, really, if she does come back, is to look at whether you can prosecute her, and there may be some difficulties with that, all right? I mean, we don't know what she was up to over there. Just going out there wasn't an offence at the time. Interestingly, now it is. But even then, she'd be treated as someone who committed the offence as a minor. It's arguable she wouldn't even be prosecuted on the basis that she'd been groomed. Then there's that other thing we have, which is the natural concern about whether she's a security risk, whether she's still in ISIS. The way you deal with that is the way which has been sensibly suggested by, I think, an MI6 former director, who said she will be interrogated, she'll be observed. Certainly she'll be interrogated. And, there's only so much, of course, you can find out from interrogation. you know, because people can lie. But if she comes back to the security of this country, she will be observed. Her child, when the child is born, will be monitored. Now, there have been some fairly unhelpful comments by Sajid Javid. You know, he's our Home Secretary and he's our representative of law and order in this country. And he's basically saying, oh, well, she can't be let in. I'm going to stop it. Well, that may be very crowd-pleasing. And we've talked about the reasons why that might be an attractive idea. But it's completely illegal. If she makes it here, or if she gets to an embassy or a consulate or whatever, she has to be allowed to return. That's what the law says. When you have these grey areas, where on the one hand you think, you know, this person's a danger, on the other hand you have some sympathy for them, and you don't quite know how to respond to it. And this is why this case is interesting. That is when the law works at its best. And that's why we have a legal framework. You know, a legal framework is decided by us. How is it decided by us? We vote in politicians who pass laws on our behalf. And if we don't like the laws, we change the politicians through elections. That's how laws work. That's why we've got them in place. So it's all very well saying, oh, well, this person shouldn't be allowed in or whatever. We've got laws that are designed for this type of situation, and that's what these laws say. To just start reacting emotionally rather than rationally in this type of situation, which has its areas of grey, that defeats the purpose of having laws, politicians, government in the first place. This was the Lawcracker. Hope you enjoyed what I had to say. Tell me what you think. Like, share, all that kind of stuff. Don't join ISIS.
Lawcracker.